Hi, my name is Bailey Farrell, and I'm a graduate student in the Urban Leadership Program at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. This research assignment asks students to first develop a hypothesis surrounding a local issue, and to then second, find data that would support or deny that hypothesis claim. So, when I first began brainstorming about some local issues in Las Vegas, I thought of things like homelessness and transportation and even education. But something I've always been fascinated with was the crime in Las Vegas. And so I wanted to research more to not only find out as a consumer, but also as a researcher. So my hypothesis is that the crime growth rate in Las Vegas is growing. As a Las Vegas resident, I find it to be worrisome and even scary reading some of the articles in the local newspapers. Things like Las Vegas sees deadliest year and higher crime rate is the new normal for Las Vegas. These things strike fear into the local residents, to myself, to my family, and so I wanted to see if the claims that these newspapers and these news stations were making are backed up by actual data. A few of the data sets that I used for this research came from the MyResearcher tool. One of the data sets was for Las Vegas population, and the other two were for violent crimes and property crimes committed over the past years. I specifically focused on the years from 2011 to 2016. The reason why I had to stop at 2016 is because that's when the data was last collected. So I thought a 5-year time period was a good amount of data to help prove my hypothesis. Property crime data found with the MyResearcher tool showed that in 2011 there were approximately 41,441 reports of property crime. And then in 2016, there was an estimated 46,000 reports of property crime. This shows that there was an estimated 11% growth in property crime over the past 5 years. For violent crime, in 2011, there were approximately 10,827 reports. In 2016, there were approximately 15,228 reports, totaling in a 40% increase in violent crime. Both property crime and violent crime were shown to increase from 2011 to 2016. This data set proving my hypothesis. The next data set that I used was sourced from FBI's Uniform Crime Report. The violent crime in Las Vegas certainly increased from 2011 to 2016. But what I found most interesting about this report is that Las Vegas's violent crime in 2016 was almost double the national average. And in regards to the property crime, there had definitely been an increased rate from 2011 to 2016. But what I did notice in this data set is that from 2015 to 2016, there was a slight decrease in property crime. However, 2016 still reported higher property crime rates than 2011, thus again proving my hypothesis to be correct. In conclusion, the data that I analyzed did prove my hypothesis to be true. One thing I was most shocked with was how rapidly and how steadily the violent crime continues to increase. Whereas property crime, while it is increasing, it's very slight in numbers and not very alarming. I will say that I definitely found some interesting research, and I would like to share that with you as we move forward in this conversation. But my overall prediction is that both violent crime and property crime rates will continue to grow, as the data has shown in the past. So there were a couple of really interesting facts that I found while researching, and one of those is how crime is reported. So for example, you're on a scene and the details of that case determine whether it's a murder or a homicide. And so all of these technicalities eventually affect the crime data and crime statistics, and I thought that to be interesting. And same thing with property crime, where oftentimes small property crime goes unreported. So crime data, I feel like, is missing. There's a lot of variable, and I found that to be really interesting to see if there wasn't that variable, how would the data be affected? Another thing that I found during research was really fascinating, and it was brought to the attention by a criminal justice professor at UNLV through a local newspaper when he said, the Las Vegas crime rates fail to account for the community's large tourist population. And this really intrigued me because tourism is a large variable, especially within our community. And it should be important to consider that when comparing the crime rates in Las Vegas to another metropolitan area. So I found that to be super fascinating, and I thought it would be so interesting to find out how many crimes are reported involving tourists, and to match that up against the annual crime rate in Las Vegas. So that was something super cool that I found out, and I wanted to share it. Lastly, I was trying to figure out, what is the correlation? Why is the crime rate continuing to grow in Las Vegas? And my very first initial thought is, of course, because the population is growing. So I wanted to run a correlation analysis, as Dr. Stream taught us earlier in this class. And so I pulled data from MyResearcher. I used the violent crime data, the property crime data, and the population data. I ran a correlation between each individual category, violent crime and population, and property crime and population. And I thought for sure that I was going to figure out the key to these crime rate growth issues. Unfortunately, it came back not a strong correlation, probably not even a correlation at all, at just 0.3. And so I was intrigued, because now I want to know what could be more impactful on these crime growth rates. So that's just something that I thought about during my research, and thought it would be cool to take it all the way and see if I can not only prove my hypothesis, but also figure out what is the cause. But I did not. Either way, it was fun to run that correlation analysis, and I think Dr. Stream proved his lesson that data can be fun. So thank you for viewing my presentation, and I really enjoyed this class. Thank you.